Welcome to our session and a joint session with OnPoint. Let's get started to our session called Humanising AI and the Quiet Architecture. I'm not sure if you've heard of that before. It's a term we've come up with at Humanising IT. But before we do kick off, I'm going to do some introductions. I'll obviously introduce myself first. My name is Katrina McDermott. I'm co-founder of a company called HIT Global. Mark Basham, he'll introduce himself shortly, is my other co-founder. Very briefly, my background is obviously in IT service management with a very deep knowledge of ITIL, as you probably would be aware, is the probably most adopted framework in IT. I'm actually an ITIL 4 contributing author. I was part of the architect team that wrote ITIL 4. I'm an ITIL V3 master. I'm an author and very proud to say my new book has reached the top 7 in information technology, and I'm on the board of the ITSM International. So pretty much IT service management is my life. On that note, I'll hand over to Mark Basham.
Hi, great to be here and have the chance to talk to you all. I was just reflecting then, should I say IT service management is my life? No, I don't think I should. It's becoming my life, I think is the way I'd frame it. So I'm a proud co-founder with Katrina of HIT Global, and delighted to have the chance to talk to you today about humanising IT. Before founding this business, I was the chief executive of Axelos. Axelos is the company that created and owns, inherited is probably a better way of putting it, the ITIL framework, and Prince 2, if you've come across that one. And before that, I had a long career in, I have 10 years actually with BSI, the British Standards Institution, and prior to that in mainstream tech. So it's wonderful to now be talking to you guys about all things service management.
Absolutely, and a huge thank you to OnPoint, our partners in Africa, for organising this event and for the opportunity to partner. So let's kick off. Agenda quite loosely. This is what we'll be following today. If we get some chats and we want to have a bit of a conversation, that's fine. We don't have to follow this to a T. But just to give you an idea, that's what we're covering. Where I think if we look at item 3 is what I'm most passionate about, and that would lead us to item 4. So experience and obviously the quiet architecture and AI. So anytime you've got any questions, pop them in the chat. I will ask you a question in a moment, but this is a slide I like to show, but I don't like to show, because it's a question that we ask, and we did a survey recently. I'm wondering if you can guess what the question was that we asked the audience of IT professionals. And the question we asked is, what do you think the business thinks of IT? And I'm not sure if it's the same in your region or country, but this was done in the UK, America, and Australia, and these are the answers we're getting. And why do I show that? Because I think how we have traditionally approached IT service management is not giving us the end result, especially for experience, that our users want and what we want to provide. And that essentially is why I created, and with Mark, Humanising IT. So what is Humanising IT? I guess what I need to say now, because I tend not to say it, but Humanising IT is actually, it's a training app, which hopefully you'll get the opportunity and you'd like to use, that we teach you about design experience for IT service management. We'll talk more about the app later, but essentially Humanising IT is training and certification that teaches you, mainly aimed at IT professionals, of how you design for experience. And our framework is based on what we call the double diamond. We will talk more about that in a moment, but just remember the double diamond for now. And as I said, we will come back to it. So what is humanizing AI? So basically, humanizing AI takes the principles of humanizing IT and applies it to AI. I'm sure that AI is a hot topic within your company. If not, it soon will be. We're actually going to Las Vegas next week to do a workshop on AI, and our workshop is at capacity. They had to close it. So, as I said, AI is very, very dominant now. And so we have also created training for humanizing AI. Okay, before I jump in, just want to sit back a moment and make sure we've got some definitions right. So we've got to look at what is IT service management, what is human-centered design, and what is humanizing IT in more detail. Is Sam on the phone? Is he back on the line? Sam doesn't seem to. He wants to. I hope he's all right. There he is.
Yeah.
I was worried about you, Sam. Sam, do you want to have a? We didn't rehearse this, did we? I'm going to throw you in the deep end. I'm going to ask you, what is IT service management?
Oh,
no,
really?
Right or wrong?
Katrina, this is okay. I mean, I think basically, IT service management, it's a process or system of maintaining and making sure IT services run and operate as they are supposed to. Yeah, basically that's it. Yeah.
Oh, that is the perfect answer. So let's have a look to see what it is. And as I said, we didn't rehearse this. Is the design, delivery, and improvement of IT services that meet the needs of business. So absolutely, basically what you said, is about people, processes, and technology, called IT service management. And it's a process-based framework. Obviously, this is just a visual. I don't expect you to read it, but the idea is that it is a very process-based framework. And we need processes to keep that technology running and available and secure. Human-centered design. I don't know if anyone wants to have a go in the chat, or Sam, you want to have a, again, there's no right or wrong. What is human-centered design?
Well, if I'm just to use the name, building, designing systems that humans can have good experience with. I mean, yeah. So that is, if I'm just to go by the name.
Yeah. I mean, it's like IT service management. It's in the name, isn't it? So yeah, human-centered design is an approach that puts people at the heart of processes and experiences, and it helps create solutions that are useful, usable, and meaningful. But what we'll see in a moment is an example of human-centered design. So I kind of gave you an example of service management about the processes. Human-centered design, I think it's important that we do understand that it's just not about being nice to people. It's actually a framework, like the framework we have in ITIL, that has an approach to how we design those human experiences. So I have an example on the screen. I'm sure we've all traveled on a plane. I don't know if you've traveled as this gentleman looks like he's in business class, but basically you get the idea that it's a very seamless experience now when we travel. This is a frequent flyer. He probably got the Uber. He used the mobile to check in. He went through the fast track. Very seamless. And if we look at another example, it's not a frequent flyer this time. It's actually an elderly couple. They're less frequent. More than likely, they didn't use an Uber to get to the airport. More than likely, they didn't use the app to check in. So as you can see, they have a very different experience. And what that is, that both of those different types of people have a good experience. The frequent flyer was able to go through quickly, and the elderly couple had a different experience. And that experience wasn't accidental. That experience is what we would call human-centered design. And this is very important. Hi, Anthony DeMore. Where's Chuck? Good to see you, Anthony. That wasn't accidental. So when you have a great experience, I really want you to be mindful that was designed. You have human-centered designers that have spent a lot of time, their effort, they've studied it, very similar to how we've studied IT service management. We have designers studying human-centered design. And what we need to be mindful is that behind that wonderful experience of that frequent flyer is what we call, and as we probably know on the phone, this service management. Would you agree? And the idea of this slide is that we may create great experiences at the front end, but this experience needs to be supported. And that is typically called IT service management that is complex. And I think that, again, I'm quite passionate about this. People forget how complex IT service management is. And I think it's important that as IT professionals, we keep reminding ourselves that we do a great job given the complexity of what we need to deal with. So we looked at what IT service management is. We looked at what human-centered design is. And so we're going to just revisit humanizing IT in context of those two. Humanizing IT means putting people at the heart of how we design and deliver and improve IT services. So essentially, how do we make that complexity and the services we provide more human-centered? IT service management has frameworks. I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of those. As Mark mentioned, probably ITIL, and I said, is the most common. Why do we have frameworks in IT? Because we've got this complexity to manage. We have to have a guide to tell us how to manage that. So there's many frameworks in IT. And as we said, ITIL being the most used. Human-centered design, I like to show this to my students because what a lot of people don't know about human-centered design is that just like IT service management, human-centered design has frameworks and models. You just don't go out and create an experience. There is an approach that you use. We use ITIL primarily in IT service management. Human-centered design primarily uses the double diamond. Sorry, I pressed wrong slide then, sorry. Got to do at least once, don't I? So human-centered design, as I said, is the most popular model is the double diamond. ITIL is the most popular in service management. The double diamond is in human-centered design. And in humanizing IT, we use the double diamond as our foundation. So what I'd like you to very briefly have a look at is that I hope you agree with me. You don't have to, but IT service management is process-focused. Human-centered design is experience-focused. As I said, they both do a great job at what they were designed to do. Remember that beautiful experience with the frequent flyer and the elderly couple? How's this experience for IT? Do you think in IT, Sam, that we design different experiences? Because in human-centered design, we knew that we had different users and we designed a completely different experience. In the example we have in IT, not a criticism, but what we tend to do is just design an experience or a process and we just deploy it. And here's an example of MFA. Who's done a great MFA project where the business was really happy? Multi-factor authentication. Exactly. Every project I've been involved in has been a disaster. So and this is an example. We have a frontline office worker who's not very technical savvy. we just probably sent an email out and said this is coming. They don't even know what MFA is. Compared to the gentleman on the right, that he's working at home, he's very tech savvy. Oh, it's a bit annoying, no problem. But can you see the difference to how we've designed in IT versus that experience to how we designed in human-centered design? And humanizing IT teaches us these techniques that human-centered design adopts for experience design. And that's basically what it is. So humanizing IT brings those two disciplines together so that when our users are interacting with our processes, the incident management process or the service request process, any process, that it is, excuse me, human-centered. Very quickly, and we teach this in the training, this is the double diamond. Remember I showed you a double diamond earlier. This is a detailed view. Again, I don't expect you to read this. This is just a visual to give you comfort that humanizing IT is an approach that you follow to design experiences. So you can't just go out and design experience. There is a framework to do that. And in humanizing IT, we've adapted it for IT service management and for humanizing AI, as you'll see at the top. Do you agree that experience is a new currency? I don't know about your region, Sam, but especially where I am, everyone's talking experience. Is that the same for you?
Yes, it's the same for us. It's even moving into the digital products. Everybody is demanding quality experiences. I had this first week, I had to switch my tailor because of the experience I had with him. Some tailors, just look at you and they take your measurements without putting things around you. This new tailor I got, that caused me that, do I like the texture of the material? The other one doesn't, it just delivers excellently. So it's a very big currency now in every industry. The banking sector being faced with harsh competition from the fintechs. People don't want to go to the bank. The insurance, so I do agree. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But in humanizing IT, we actually challenge that experience. We do a podcast, which I'll show later, that I talk about, because I think in IT service management, we need to be very careful about experience. And why is that so? Let's have a look. A few things. What is great experience? What is experience? This is a bit of a tongue-in-cheek where sometimes we think we know what a good experience means in IT, but let's have a look at what's very important, because great experience costs a great deal of money. Okay. Do you have a lot of money, Sam, in your IT organization? Do you think IT departments have a lot of money?
Nope. No.
So we need to be very careful about what we say. And do users really want a great experience? Have we really asked them? I think we're assuming that we've got to give great experience. In all companies that we've worked with, users just want their technology to work. That's what means a good experience. And what is a good or bad experience? We've defined what it is. Have we actually gone out? And this is where we start talking in a moment about the quiet architecture of IT service management, the design decisions that we've made. We're struggling today because, guys, it's not our fault, okay? We don't design great experiences in IT service management. And I'm not saying they're all bad, please don't get me wrong. But what I'm trying to say in this slide is that IT was built to standardize and automate, control, keep IT running, keep it secure. That was our role in IT service management. And as an ITIL4 contributing author and master, I can say that with a good level of authority. IT service management, that's what it was about. Experience was just not something that was part of IT service management. But then all of a sudden, we're being asked to design experience. And you can't, as I said, we can't just do that. And now AI is becoming part of IT service management. What does that mean? How are we going to improve how our users feel and interact about IT? and before we automate it. Because it's like asking your head of facilities to run a major IT incident. How do you design experiences? The facilities manager wouldn't know how to run a major incident because he hasn't done ITIL training. And that's what we say. IT professionals haven't done experience design training. And another example is like asking a software developer to write a HR policy. Do you think they'd be able to do that? No. So again, this is a bit of tongue-in-cheek and a bit of humor, which I hope you're appreciating. What we're saying here is that to create an experience takes skills. And that's what humanizing IT and humanizing AI is all about. So here we go for the quiet architecture at work. So this is part of what we're discussing today. Unfortunately, guys, if you work in IT, you make up the quiet architecture. And I'll show you what I mean by that. This is an example of the quiet architecture at work. I've pinpointed 3 specific. We'll make these slides available. But who has contacted the user 3 times? Do you have that? Sam, you're screening? Yes, if you haven't, but probably did. That's an example of the quiet architecture at work. We've made designs. We've done experience design. And I'm sort of contradicting myself. I know I said earlier we don't do experience. We actually do experience, because every time we write a process, every time we interact with our users, that's an experience. Contact the user 3 times, and I don't want to offend anybody, but I don't think we should do that, because I'll tell you why. Users don't like it. We send users emails. They don't open them. And sometimes we're over-servicing. And why don't we use that in other areas? So that's an example. Auto-close tickets after 72 hours of no response. We made that up. That's an experience. Close the ticket once a workaround is provided. We've been told that's best practice. So if you've studied ITIL, that's what we'd say best practice, because that goes to problem management. So we can close the ticket. Sorry, user. We can close that ticket, workaround provided, and problem management will get it. And in our experience, problem management is not a very mature practice. We'll do it later. But again, these are all just examples of what we have designed, everybody, called the quiet architecture. Anthony, you said 3 strikes rule is still something. Yeah, let's talk.
You see Emmanuel saying contact more than 3 times.
Oh, more than 3 times. No. But it's really interesting. I've got a laundry list of all these design assumptions which we're going to go. So this is the quiet architecture at work. So first thing, the user gets an error message. What does that error message mean, Sam? Do you think a user knows what that error message means?
Not at all. I mean,
No. So that assumption is your quiet architecture. Let's go to the next thing. The user ring telephone support. People are still ringing for support. Press 1 for infrastructure, 2 for applications. So the assumptions are, I love that you're laughing. Users understand IT structure. This is a quiet architecture. Next thing, she'll go to the portal, but she doesn't know the link, or she doesn't know where to classify it. So assumption, users can find and classify the issue. Users don't know where to find, a lot of the time, where to find that portal and what to classify. Too many fields. I don't know how many times I've seen IT forms that have just got so many fields that users can't understand. So we've assumed that users can diagnose their problem. Does the user know if it's a network or application issue? We then say to the user, ticket submitted. We've assumed that submission equals clarity and understanding. Waiting, checking. And then we give them status updates in progress. We assume, again, the user knows what that means. So this is an example of the quiet architecture at work. But from a system view, our view, everything went perfectly. That's what we write. The user logs a ticket, the user categorizes, we prioritize it, etc., etc. So nothing here is broken. This is a system working exactly as designed, and with the users not all the time being happy. The quiet architecture is what you see on your screen. I'm not going to go through it all, but basically IT service management is your quiet architecture. And how does this get acknowledged? How does it get funded? How does it get approved? Because the quiet architect is based on frameworks, it's based on your tooling, it's based on your metrics, how you're rewarded. And when you look at it from this point of view, this is what we need to be very careful about, because we actually never question best practice a lot of the time. And you are the architecture, the quiet architecture, guys. So if you work in IT, you are creating a quiet architecture. Now, I'm not saying it's all bad. Please do not get me wrong. As I said earlier, we do a great job in IT service management, and we all go to work and we do a fantastic job. I often say, if it wasn't for us, companies wouldn't survive, literally. Employees wouldn't get paid. Companies couldn't report to shareholders. So we do a great job, but this is about the experience we're creating. And I was a very IT professional that always said, this is best practice. Of course, we have to contact the user 3 times. Of course, we can close a ticket if there's a workaround. I was very, very clear on that until I studied human-centered design, and I thought, hey, what does a user think about it? Because it suits us, it doesn't suit the user necessarily all the time. So, humanizing AI. Basically what we're saying there, if we don't fix this quiet architecture, and please believe me, there's a lot of interactions that are not creating a positive experience, that if we don't stop and look, obviously we've heard this, of course we have, it will amplify it. And humanizing AI, as I said earlier, we also do training in humanizing AI. We don't teach the tools. We teach you how can you look at your data through a human-centered lens and interrogate it using AI. And as Sam said, and he'll say that'll be another webinar. Just before I move on, is there any questions? Because I'll just move on to the next slides if there's no more questions before I do. Sam, what's your feeling so far? Am I being too harsh on IT service management?
No, but I mean, you're just hitting us with the truth in our faces, and yeah, I think all of us can relate. I have some few questions, but I'll wait for you to finish, and I'm sure some of the audience to have. But so far, you've been great. Thank you.
Great, Mark. Do you have any? What are your thoughts of you said you didn't know too much about IT service management. As a user, I mean, what do you think of IT? I can tell you sit here and mumble half the day.
Katrina's setting me up because she knows full well that I constantly have problems. So yeah, I could be the person, I could be the victim or the user in most of these images, most of these slides. So when it comes to classifications, when it comes to escalations, I'm hopeless. No, I think IT is way too complicated. And going through this process actually over the last nearly 3 years now of developing and marketing the humanizing IT and talking to customer after customer after customer all over the world, I know that this is a common experience. And we're not alone. And IT has created IT organizations, IT teams, they work really hard. They do a great job. They are all motivated with the very best of intentions. And they're tasked with creating these experiences without ever being given any tools or any information about how to do it. And that's really the gap that that humanizing IT fixes. So yeah, thank you for asking me, Kat.
You're very welcome.
Putting me on the spot.
So it's nice to ask a user, and that's what it's about. So humanizing IT starts with redesigning the system for behavior. Then we can scale what matters. and both for us. And I just like to end on one of the last slides here is that one, in IT service management, as we saw earlier, we tend to design for everybody. So we saw with the MFA example, we did a process and we rolled it out. Humanizing, human-centered design, as we saw earlier, actually thinks about different users, such as a frequent flyer and an elderly couple, and we design for that. But in IT and AI, we need to be careful that we don't just have one size fits all, because AI models are built for general patterns. Your users are anything but general. We're not all one user that is tech savvy, that we're sitting at our desk all day, that we have access to knowledge articles, etc. We need to think about our different users, and we teach you about archetypes and personas. AI performs well for familiar, straightforward scenarios. And then again, we have to, and as we know, that's not, even password reset is not a straightforward scenario a lot of the times. And the way we're written IT is IT service management process is very linear, very, very linear. The user does this, then we do this, then we do this. AI can misinterpret, misclarify, or miss important signals. When AI gets it wrong, people work around it, as that happens in IT ourselves. So same system, different people, different results. So this is, I feel, for IT professionals, this is really our opportunity, and an exciting one, to really learn new skills. And those new skills is about experience, because as I said, you can't just do experience, as you can't just become a facilities manager or a HR manager. You have to learn how to design experience. And that is basically it. And I'm going to hand over to Sam in a moment. But just before I do, I mentioned earlier, we have a podcast. We need to talk about IT. I'd love for you to listen to that. It's available on YouTube and Spotify and Apple and all that. Just Google Humanising IT. And I think that's it. So thank you. So Sammy, I'll hand over to you if that's okay.
Okay, thanks, Katrina. Guys, let's show some love to Katrina. Let's see some comments. Thank you so much for walking us through this session. I know there is more, and guys, I know you're expecting more. We plan to have another session, so kindly just stay and follow our channels, right? But at this session, we just take some few questions. If you have some questions, just drop them in the chat. I would read them over to Katrina for some input. So we'll be waiting for that. But Katrina, as we wait for the questions, right? I wrote something. I mean, it's a personal question, right? And guys, just to give you a history, I am from the ITSM implementation point of view. So I implement ITSM for customers, and we build operational reliability systems for them. And this question comes up. You keep emphasizing on the need to have design thinking experiences, right? In designing IT support services. Let me just put it in that way. The question the CIO head of ITSM will ask you, how do we evolve to have that skill? We have also been trained our years to maintain, to support, to report on these KPIs. How do we then navigate this new layer of design experiences? What advice would you give to that? So that would be my first question. Thank you.
I could show another slide actually, but where I would start is your data. Because another thing that I say that I don't mean to upset people is we don't believe in doing surveys. Shock. Because for various reasons, the response rates are invariably low. People only really respond if it's really good or really bad. And nor do we care about your traditional metrics. So how many incidents did you have this month? What was the percentage increase? How many incidents were for failed changes? So all those metrics that we're used to, we actually don't, when I say don't care about them, we do need them, of course we do, but they are not how you base decisions. Okay, that's the first thing that you need to understand from an experience design. What we need to understand is what's happening. What your users are saying is through your ticket data through the conversations through IT teams. So we can tell because we've got a Humanising AI playbook. I mentioned that earlier, that we do Humanising AI training. And we have a playbook where we can ask your data. We go through our framework. What's actually happening in your environment. So I can tell you if you have a good and a cohesive culture between your IT teams, between your service desk. I can tell you, we didn't cover it, unfortunately, but have you heard of archetypes, Sam? Archetypes.
I must say yes, but from your book, actually.
So we look at archetypes, and again, next session we'll talk about that, but archetypes are behavioral patterns. And in IT, we have archetypes called workaround experts. What does that mean, a workaround expert? I'm sure you guys, you are familiar with this, that people try and fix it themselves. We have the blame shifter. We have the silent sufferer. Okay. And what I can tell is that we just did this for another company, actually, is it was 60% of their users are workaround experts. What does that mean? Is that they avoid IT. That is, they have tried everything and IT was the last point of call. And that's what I can tell from Humanising IT, the type of culture you have. So I would interrogate your data and find out actually what is happening. Because if you've got too many incidents, it's not usually because of what we typically think it is.
That's true.
And another thing that we say is we assume that incident volume tells us what's happening. We all know, especially workaround experts, do not log tickets.
That's true.
Yeah.
Very true. Thank you, Katrina.
You're very welcome.
Yeah. So, guys, I hope you got some answers. Like I said, and like she really mentioned, there will be other episodes where we delve deeper. But the truth is, like she said, there should be a new way of thinking. And Katrina, for managerial levels, right, who rely on this data to make decisions, which directs the organization. I mean, if there's a managerial person listening, what are some of the questions they should be asking to kind of direct their team to rethink around how ITSM and AI even manages services? I mean, if somebody sits at the level where they trust the data to make decisions. Yeah, thank you. That'll be my last question, and then we move to the next stage. Thank you.
Not at all. And that's what Anthony was saying. Many leaders think that AI is the silver bullet, which is not. And again, we walk through our framework, and the first activity is what we call the RIP, and that's recognizing the perceived problem. So I would say to the leader, what problem are you solving? Okay. And let's say he's going to say, to become more efficient. How do you know that? So we start off with asking what they think the problem is. Like, why do you need AI? What are your problem you're solving? And if they say, better culture, well, AI is not going to fix that. AI is not necessarily going to make you more efficient or save you cost, not necessarily, especially in our experience. When our IT service management foundation is poor, we don't have a CMDB. I mean, I can tell you, Sam, we're working with vendors at the moment, and a very progressive vendor that is purely agentic. They say that, AI is fantastic, and it is, but then because my personality, I say, well, what if you don't have a CMDB? What if your services aren't mapped to your business? He goes, oh no, that you still need that. So what I'm trying to say is it's not the silver bullet, and then put it back to the leaders asking this question: what problem are you solving? Because AI is probably not going to solve what you think it will.
Well, thank you so much, Katrina. I have more questions, but because of time, I will hold them for the next sessions. And guys, please share. We have these recordings available so that you can share with the other team members, and then get ready for the next session, which will be announced later. Moving on, the best part of, I wouldn't say maybe I don't want to use the best part, but there's a package and there's there's an answer to the question most of you are asking. If you're in IT, how do I scale up? How do I get these skills that Katrina mentioned and highlighted? So Mark is going to show us the good news briefly, and then we'll move from there. So Mark, please, over to you. Kindly show us the good news.
I've got to share a taxi to the airport immediately after this, sitting next to Katrina. You just called me the best bit about this, so I'm now scared about that journey. So, no, thank you, Sam, and thank you, Katrina. That was actually a brilliant session, and actually it's just teasing the subject. So the training, we introduced Humanising IT training just over 2 years ago. It's won a lot of awards, both for the content and subject matter, but also for the style of learning. So all of our learning is based on an app. It's what's called micro learning. So you learn in small bite-sized chunks of 10-15 minutes at a time. Humanising IT, which is the Humanising IT Foundation, I should say, is the first product that I'd recommend to you all. It's based upon a case study, a fictitious airline. There's lots of characters you get to meet. And Anthony, I noticed, asked when he first joined, where's Chuck? Chuck is one of the characters in that learning. He ends up being most people's favorite, it has to be said. But at the end of the learning, you work your way through, and essentially what it is, it's an introduction to the Humanising IT, the HIT double diamond framework, which Katrina referenced there. So that is made up of a series of phases and activities, and its foundation is an introduction to Diamond 1 primarily, which is all about understanding the problem, done through this micro learning app. So I'd recommend it to everybody. As I said, won lots of awards. It includes, and this is really important, an exam and a certification. So the certification, you'll see lots of people sharing them on LinkedIn. It's becoming internationally, globally renowned now. So we've got customers in more than 35 countries around the world at last count, and that's growing very quickly. So we're delighted to be partnering with onpoint to introduce it to the markets in Africa. So thank you very much. I can talk much more about that. Go have a look at the website, so and you'll get a lot more information. The other product that's worth referencing is Humanising AI, which similarly is another online micro-learning based course, which introduces our approach. It's a part of the Humanising IT family, and it introduces our view, the Humanising IT view about AI. So again, another really important one. But start off with Foundation would be my recommendation. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you so much, Mark, for sharing the good news. So hi, everyone, once again. As you heard from Mark, his recommendation is taking the Humanizing IT fundamentals. I have taken that course, and I can attest to the fact that it challenges your thinking. If you are even from the implementation and consulting point of view, it makes you ask relevant questions and see the big picture. So thank you. The good news is that Mark and Katrina has a special package for the African market. And so I must say to those who joined, probably you may have seen some ads on our pages around a special discount code for the African market. They are slashing the cost by a huge margin so that we can pick that up and then build that skill. So if you check our website or our LinkedIn pages, you just see there's a link. Let me share my screen probably just to show you, and then just hit us up and get your discount. I mean, and just get it right. The other side is if your organization wants us to have a group kind of training, is also available. So the options are widely open for everyone in IT and even in the organizations you work in to have access to this training I'm talking about. So if you see my screen, yes, there's a discount. Okay, please prompt me if my screen is visible. Yep.
I'll stop sharing.
Okay.
There we go. Nice.
You're up, Sam. You're up.
Yeah. So it's live now in Africa, and there's a discount code. You just have to click the button and just fill a small form, and then you get your discount code to and get this price. This is an amazing, and we want to thank Mark and HIT for such a kind gesture. I mean, the experience is good. And finally, as a wrap up, to some of you who want to compound your learning in humanizing IT, Katrina just launched a book about maybe a few weeks ago. The book is called Humanizing IT, The Experience Distortion of IT Service Management. And I would also comment, let me drag it. Okay, I have to change my screen again. It's on another screen in a way, but it's an amazing book and it's an amazing read for those of you who are into IT support, ITSM, who are into design and operations, and who are into business in general. She spells out carefully the differences and how compounding ITSM and HIT, human-centered design, can bring the best of value, especially in these days. So having said that, I would want to say thank you for joining. Maybe we take last words from Katrina, and then probably we wrap up with this session. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Sam. I've just answered Anthony, and I probably should say that Anthony asked, who do you think does human-centered design well, or humanizing IT, Apple, Amazon? I think they all do, and what I should have said at the beginning is, why do companies use human-centered design? Why do companies invest in human-centered design? Because it's a fact, it's resource-driven, is that if you understand your customers and design for your customers, you will be more profitable, your people will be more happy, etc., etc. There's nothing bad about human-centered design, and that's why companies invest in human-centered design. And as I said, in IT service management, we don't do that. We don't bring that skill set into IT service management as companies do for customers. So that is my last words, is that companies use human-centered design because it's a proven approach to customer loyalty, advocacy, experience, etc. And what we do is bring that into IT service management, because we want our employees to be happy, we want our IT people to be happy, advocate, all that. But again, you need a framework to do that, and that's humanizing IT.
Can I add one piece?
Please, yeah.
So, and just to add to what Katrina has said there, so human-centered design is brilliant. Human-centered design is great in IT, but you cannot just take human-centered design and drop it directly into IT, because of all the complexity and all the constraints that exist in our worlds. So human-centered design by its nature has no constraints. You're encouraged not to think about constraints. In IT, we have to think about availability and security and all those other things. And so there are constraints, which is why we've created Humanizing IT, which is the confluence of both human-centered design and IT service management coming together in that framework, in the Humanizing IT double diamond framework. That's the crux of what we do.
Absolutely. That's what my book's based on too.
Yes,
so thank
exactly.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you guys. Thank you so much, Katrina and Mark, for those last words. I do really hope that our audience are going to take that up and scale up in these areas, and also push it to the right people in their organizations to have those discussions. And so, and closing remarks, if you need any assistance in getting this to your management to have discussions, you can always reach out to me. Mark and Katrina are always available. So we come together to help you project these values to your organizations. The truth is, they're already thinking about it. They just don't know. There is Mark and Katrina and Humanizing IT around to support them in that direction. And as on point, here in Africa, we are here to support. So kindly just get the book, get the course, and then see you next time. Thank you so much for joining.